Whoa, hey, Clapthany back, Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a YUNOREVIEW, where I give my thoughts on a bunch of albums, one after the next, brief opinion gauntlet style, because I didn't really get a chance to review them in full, in a focused way, over the past month or so. So yeah, that's what we are going to do. Every album I talk about in this video is listed down below in the description box, and you're the best. Mwah! Ba-bam! The Swedish melodic death metal outfit In Flames is back with another record. This one, of course, comes with a lot of soaring choruses and very regimented rhythms and riffs. The guitar tones throughout the record are very bright and very samey. The vocals are pretty consistent as well. That is, except for the cleans, which seemingly have more pop appeal than ever, especially on these very hooky choruses. Pretty much just kind of feels like a fusion of not just death metal, but pop to an extent as well. Not one that I'm particularly crazy about, I'll say that. But hey, if you really like your death metal light and sweet, then check this thing out. Christian rapper Lecrae Church Clothes 4. There's actually an expanded edition of this project out now too. And yeah, previously I've never been super crazy about this guy's stuff. I found a lot of his production choices to be weak. Sometimes his songs come off preachy to the point where everything else about them musically kind of gets neglected. But CC4, in my opinion, is actually hard and one of the best and most consistent Lecrae projects yet. The godly angles in the lyrics are worked a bit more creatively. They're not so on the nose. Many of the tracks have more of a topical focus as well. The production is consistently great, especially the moments where you kind of, get piles of keys and group vocals and horns. And he approaches these songs with a myriad of vibes and energies. Some of the tracks come across maybe a little flirty and violent, or maybe like a hip hop song in a certain lane would be, but he flips a lot of those feelings and a lot of those attitudes over in a way where it ends up having kind of a religious angle or ends up serving a religious purpose. So in that respect, I found the album kind of clever. Plus the song Still in America is one of a few moments of genuinely good social commentary on the tape. But yeah, this thing was surprisingly good. I've not heard Lecrae sounding this hard and this consistent and this focused before. And this one's really doing it for me, man. It's doing it for me. I'll say that. New Zealand pop singer and songwriter Kimbra is back, 4th full-length LP, and man, this is an odd one. In one breath, while I respect the risks being taken on this thing and the versatility that she approaches it with, yeah, that's nice, but also I think a lot of the experimentation on this thing falls flat. The Radiohead worship on Replay isn't that great. The tense and grating production and enraged vocals on Gun I think don't quite work either. And there's also Kimbra's pitiful attempt at rapping on GLT that I think is not all that flattering too. The song LA Type is I don't know, a little pretentious too. It's kind of like very much an I'm not like the other girls anthem. Yeah, in my opinion, Kimbra is just not at her best on this one, even though she was just trying some new stuff. New Go Team LP over here. This is the sequel to the album the band dropped last year, and honestly, these two records, I think, account for some of the band's best stuff in a while. It's very cheerful, playful indie, psych, and sunshine pop, with some creative genre clashes as well, and tracks that have kind of an old school funk and soul twist. There are some neat crossovers to be had, too, with rapper Nitty Scott, as well as a lot of awesome group vocals from the Star Feminine Band. I think fans of Caro Caro Bonito should take notice. Anybody who really kind of likes music that is very quirky, very lighthearted, very fun. I will say some of the lead vocal performances here and there fall kind of flat and don't really come off all that vibrant or expressive, but still I think the Go Team is currently in the midst of one of the most fun eras in their career. This, I believe, is the 5th solo full-length LP from UK electronic music producer Daniel Avery, and what this record brings to the table is different than nearly everything Daniel has done so far. Creatively, he's a bit of a chameleon and kind of reinvents himself with each project, and on this one we hear a lot of glorious, bright ambient soundscapes with pumping break beats, a lot of groovy techno rhythms, and honestly, the beats, the textures, the atmospheres, the collaborations on this record are consistently really good. I actually regret not reviewing it. I should have talked about this thing at the time that it came out because, yeah, it's a really nice, tastefully put together and produced electronic music record, but it's Daniel Avery, so I shouldn't have been surprised. With this new Avey Tare LP, we have a lot of groovy, subtly surreal neo-psych ballads and meditations. 7 tracks in the track list, of course, many of which are pretty long, hypnotic, very much an emphasis on vibes and repetition. Like the latest Anco record, as well as the newest album from Panda Bear, there's a lot of good textures to be had throughout this project, but the songs themselves aren't super eventful or dynamic, plus the vocal performances are far from the boldest that you'll hear on any Avey Tare album, or Animal Collective album for that matter. But still, I encourage you to check this thing out for its sloshy, colorful, serene, and melty vibes, and for its immersive highlights. It's not too bad. We have Florida death metal legends Obituary, as prolific as ever, coming back with another one here. And they do bring sort of a classic death metal sound to the table, and, who would expect any less? The guitar tones and riffs are sick. The issue is that the guitars are so pumped up in the mix, they pretty much drown everything out. The vocals are barely audible a lot of the time. Bass almost nowhere to be found, and the drums, while they're there, they lack punch. I mean, I guess if you like hearing a bunch of death metal songs that sound nearly like isolated guitar tracks, give this thing a listen. If you really like riffs, give this thing a listen. But if you like a sound that's a bit more, I guess, wide and colorful and varied, you're not going to like this one for sure. More briny and thunderous riffs from Death and Funeral Doom masters Ahab, and this new record for them really kind of leans heavily into narrative and also very clean melodic vocal passages, which definitely shows the band expanding their sound a little bit, but the issue is, I feel like a lot of these sections just don't really work out too well. They're tedious. They seemingly drag on forever and just don't really hit as hard as the more, heavy, distorted death metal oriented passages, which obviously are great as usual. Maybe they're not long enough. Maybe they're not progressive enough. Maybe they're not high enough in number to break up the more mundane sections of the record. Either way, I found this album to very much be a slog, despite having enjoyed some of the teaser tracks to it. But either way, Ahab is here, doing their thing, and I suspect we'll continue finding them where the riffs and the ocean meet. Here we have an interesting new concept album from Detroit rapper T. Grizzley, which feels strictly like an exercise in storytelling, which isn't really the predominant angle that you hear out of a lot of this Midwestern rap right now. But while I commend that, I have to say Grizzly's delivery across a lot of these tracks is kind of one-dimensional. It's very samey. There's a lack of song structure on some of these tracks too, where he's really kind of just going at length about a particular story or narrative, which I think really impacts whether or not what he's saying comes across as memorable or gripping as he's saying it. But I will say this, the characters, the narrative details, the criminal debauchery that is detailed on this project is just so intensely good that it makes listening to this thing worth it at least once. And once more, it is cool to see T. Grizzley embracing this often underrated skill in a lot of modern hip-hop these days, storytelling. Here we have a new one from Japanese metal and J-pop fusionists, Babymetal, their 4th full-length LP. The attraction for many to this band, I'll say, mostly started out as a novelty, but what they did was entertaining and unique all the same. It's worth asking, though, what do they have to offer now on their 4th LP and more than 10 years as a band? And I guess the answer to that is one of their heaviest and most symphonic projects so far, which is really living up to the edgy and dark album art here. And as a result of that, I think there's a lot of urgency to many of these tracks, and that's kind of replaced much of the snappiness and catchiness that the early albums sort of had in spades, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you perceive Babymetal. For me, it makes this project a lot less interesting to listen to because I don't genuinely find it to be all that dark or menacing, even if it is relatively so for Babymetal. Yeah, overall, I just kind of see this thing as a move in a direction that just doesn't really play to their strengths, I suppose. Irish post-punk outfit The Murder Capital comes through with their sophomore full-length LP over here. And, you know, I'm very much crazy about post-punk in general, but I think that makes me also very picky with a lot of up-and-coming bands who are toying in the genre. And on this LP, I think what the Murder Capital does is fine. It's not terrible. It's not amazing either. It's just kind of very boilerplate for this style for me. It kind of gives me maybe some Proto-Martyr vibes, some early Shame vibes, which again is fine. Those bands and their records appeal very widely to a lot of rock fans, so I'm not really surprised that the Murder Capital is getting some momentum too. I think the band sounds solid, but I'm not hearing a whole lot here in terms of style, performance, or material that is really drawing me to revisit it, but maybe the next album will do a bit more for me. She did it. Rebecca Black made a solid little album and proved she is capable of pulling together a respectable pop record. But with that being said, I think the expectations, at least for me, on this album held my enjoyment of it back a little bit. Because I guess, given Rebecca's previous tracks and who she's been collaborating with lately, some of the fans she's been appealing to with her music, I thought that this album would be a bit more adventurous, and it's really not. As far as modern pop goes, the sound of it is super standard. The vocal performances are solid, but not necessarily stand out. And I think the craziest this album gets is that there are some beats that have maybe a slight hyper pop undertone to them. Outside of that, I think Rebecca plays it super duper safe. And again, while I think maybe that was necessary and that is fine for a first album out, just to kind of show that you can do it, I'm hoping the next time around is just a bit more reflective of what makes her unique as an artist. California metalcore outfit Zulu comes through with their debut. We are getting some Afrocentric hardcore and power violence on this record. It is heavy and brutal as hell. The riffs and production are on point. The vocals are on point. But my issues with the project are that it is super short, not really all that gratifying as an album experience, kind of choppy and inconsistent in a way. It doesn't really stand out stylistically within the metalcore genre as a whole, outside of some of the messaging and lyrics that it delivers, which are great, mind you. I like a lot of the social critiques this project offers. But again, as far as metalcore goes, I think what Zulu does is just a little too meat and potatoes, and when they occasionally veer stylistically outside of the metalcore sound, they don't really offer anything distinct either. Again, if you want some ferocious energy, you want some riffs you can throw down to, this album certainly brings it, but it doesn't bring a whole lot of it. I have never heard a man so high in the studio and just sounding out of his mind, to the point where he just loses all concept of, I don't know, musicality, intelligibility, flow. The tracks, the mixing, the production, everything having to do with the vocals on this thing just truly amount to nothing, and this has to be one of the worst and most pointless albums I've heard this year. This is just embarrassing. New side project here from Swedish rapper, singer, and songwriter Young Lean or Jonatan Leandoer. And yeah, we have an interesting one here from Lean. The singing on this thing is super dejected and disconnected and performed over these very dramatic and over-the-top, very theatrical pop and rock instrumentals. It's kind of like very sad karaoke, or like listening to the most depressed wedding singer of all time, which is certainly interesting and a way of going about things that you can do. It was fun to listen to while it's on, but I think the novelty of this wore off for me pretty quick, outside of a couple of tracks here and there that I thought were genuinely well written and performed. But yeah, for the most part, this thing kind of seems like a bit of a silly tongue-in-cheek joke, but still, I guess, could be taken seriously to some degree. Gent is not a genre. Gent is not a genre. Gent is not a genre. If we keep telling you gent is not a genre, will it not be a genre? Gent is not a genre. Nice to see music legend John Cale still kicking and still totally unafraid to experiment and try something new on this LP over here. Doing his thing over Baroque strings or trap beats, John Cale is sounding adventurous on this one, while also bringing on a myriad of guests from Wise Blood to Animal Collective. There's even a Nico tribute on one song in the mix. But to be honest, all of the very slow-paced instrumentals, the very formless songwriting, as well as weary, distant vocals are not doing a whole lot to engage me. I kind of feel like I'm listening to a cross between a Scott Walker album and maybe a David Byrne solo LP with a gothic twist, which aesthetically in concept is really interesting, and aesthetically in concept this album is interesting. I just don't really think the songs are there, and performances too. Pierce the Veil, The Jaws of Life. Truth be told, I've never really been into Pierce the Veil's very sugary brand of post-hardcore, and all these years later, on their latest full-length over here, that's still pretty much the case. From insipid melodies and lyrics to You Can Bring the Villainy, I Can Bring the Sex Appeal, to contrasts of acoustic and heavy rock passages that are weak as hell, I just don't really find a lot about this record entertaining. There are a few moments that I thought were commendable as far as trying something new and experimenting, like with these spacey beats on Even When I'm Not With You, or Past the Nirvana, where the band actually kind of comes through with some grunge-centric riffs, with a really thick guitar and bass mix, some looping beats as well, and some ferocious vocals on the hook. It's actually one of their more enjoyable singles, in my opinion, even if I'm the odd man out on that one. But yeah, Pierce the Veil, I just don't think they're aging super well stylistically, but at least they're trying some new stuff here and there. Zishin, have you given any of these albums a listen? Did you love them? Hate them? What would you rate them? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't die. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Why You Know Review, forever.